Nolan Wells bombshell tonight. The dead teen's messages deleted after his body washes ashore. Good evening. I'm Nancy Grace. This is Crime Stories. I want to thank you for being with us.
Four friends went out on a boat. 4 friends came back. But only 3 of them can tell you what really happened to the 4th. His name was Nolan Wells, 18 years old, a football star with his whole life in front of him. On July 4th, he went to a remote island with people he trusted, people who called him a friend. Hours later, he was gone. Not gone as in missing for a little while. Gone as in his body would wash up on a beach days later, face down, fully clothed, in an area rescuers call the washing machine, because that's exactly what the current does to anything that goes in. But here's what should keep you up at night. 2 completely different stories are being told about his final hours. And they cannot both be true. Someone is lying. And whoever that is knows exactly what happened to Nolan Wells. Stay with me, because by the end of this video, you're going to hear the audio recording investigators are analyzing right now, a recording that might capture Nolan's final desperate moments. You're going to hear why his phone, a phone that never left a teenager's hand, mysteriously has nothing on it from the day he died. And you're going to understand why his own father, standing at his son's funeral, is telling the world, "My son would never have done what they're claiming he did." This is the story of Nolan Wells. And I promise you, the deeper you go, the less it makes sense. It was supposed to be a celebration. The 4th of July. Summer. Freedom. A group of friends and Nolan piled onto a boat headed to Horn Island, a barrier island off the Gulf Coast that you can only reach by water. No bathrooms. No cell towers reaching out there in any reliable way. No adults. Just teenagers, boats, music, and the kind of freedom that feels invincible when you're 18. Hundreds of young people were out there that day, according to witnesses. Boats coming and going. Groups mixing and separating. It was, by every account, the kind of chaotic, unsupervised summer gathering that happens every year across America's coastlines. And somewhere in that crowd, Nolan met a girl. Someone new. Someone he'd never spent time with before that day. Witnesses say there was a spark, that Nolan told people he genuinely liked her. It was the kind of moment you remember from being young. Meeting someone on a beach, the sun going down, everything feeling possible. It would also be the last day of his life. Because at some point, in the chaos of that island, in the middle of hundreds of strangers and friends and boats pulling in and out, Nolan Wells got separated from the group he came with. And he never made it home. By the time his friends realized he wasn't with them, panic had already started to set in. The search that followed became a race against water, current, and time. "We're sinking. Can you all please come?" That was the chilling radio call that went out. And when asked if everyone on board was accounted for, the answer that came back was, yeah, everybody's off. Everybody was not off. Nolan was not on that boat. He was still out there. Somewhere. That's when the United Cajun Navy, a volunteer search and rescue organization made up of everyday people with boats, planes, and an unshakable mission to bring people home, got the call. Todd Terrell, representing the organization, took to the skies in a seaplane, scanning the water for any sign of the missing teenager. Horn Island, that area right there, is an area we have seaplanes that we operate back and forth, Terrell explained. That morning, the body was observed on the northwest portion of Horn Island. A park ranger spotted him first, face down, washed up on the shore. In the exact area rescuers call the washing machine, a stretch of water where the depth goes from 2 feet to 20 feet in a matter of steps, where rip currents spin in violent, unpredictable circles. Nolan Wells was dead, and the search for answers was just beginning. Here's where this case stops being a tragic accident and starts becoming something far more troubling. According to Nolan's friends, the ones who came back on the boat without him, Nolan chose to stay behind. They say he wanted to keep talking to the girl he'd just met. They say leaving him there was his decision, not theirs. But then there's Katie's side of the story. And according to someone claiming to speak for her, Nolan told her something completely different. He told her he was heading back to the boat, back to his friends. Read that again. His friends say he stayed with her. She says he told her he was going back to them. Both of these stories cannot be true. Someone is lying. And it's not a small detail we're talking about here. It's the single most important fact in this entire case. It's the answer to the question, how did Nolan Wells end up alone on a remote island with no way to get back to shore? Because here's what should terrify you about this detail. Horn Island isn't a place you can just walk away from. There's no bridge, no car, no way to leave except by boat. If Nolan didn't leave with his friends, and he didn't leave with Katie, then he was stranded, alone, on an island, as the sun went down. Who left him there? And why does no one's story match? If the conflicting accounts weren't disturbing enough, there's now an audio recording circulating that has investigators and the public asking even more urgent questions. A Snapchat recording, obtained and shared publicly, captures what sounds like an intense, aggressive altercation. Listen closely, and you can allegedly hear a voice, believed by some witnesses to be Nolan's, shouting, "Give me my effing phone. What the F*** are you doing?" Asterisk. Another voice responds, aggressive, combative. "Get off me. Get the F*** off this boat. F*** you bro." Asterisk. Now here's where it gets even murkier. Some witnesses who've heard the recording insist that is Nolan's voice, caught in a heated confrontation before he disappeared. But others, including people who were allegedly involved in a completely different altercation that day, claim it's not Nolan at all. One person has even come forward claiming, "That's actually me in that recording, not him." So which is it? Is this the sound of Nolan Wells fighting for his phone, fighting to get back on a boat that was leaving without him? Or is this an unrelated argument that has nothing to do with his death at all? Attorney Ben Crump, representing Nolan's grieving family, has been careful about jumping to conclusions. "We have other witnesses saying there were other altercations," Crump stated. "We're trying to go through it all." But he also confirmed something chilling. Audio forensic experts are now being brought in specifically to analyze this recording and determine, once and for all, whose voice is on it. Because if that is Nolan, if those are his final recorded words, then somebody on that boat knows exactly what happened in his last moments alive. And they haven't told the truth about it yet. If you have a teenager, or if you remember being one, you know one universal truth. Their phone doesn't leave their side. Ever. It's not a want. It's not a preference. It's an extension of who they are. So explain this to me. How does an 18-year-old boy, active on social media, constantly documenting his life through Snapchat and photos, end up with a phone that shows absolutely nothing from the day he died? Nolan's family describes searching desperately for his location using two different tracking apps, Snapchat's map feature and Life 360. And what they found didn't just fail to help. It actively confused the situation. The two apps reportedly showed completely different locations for Nolan's phone. One suggested he was still out on the water. The other suggested he was already back on dry land. Think about that. If Life 360 showed Nolan on land, that would mean he made it back to shore at some point. But if that's true, why didn't he come home? And why would his friends claim he never got back on the boat with them at all? And then there's the most disturbing detail of all. When Nolan's phone was finally recovered, it wasn't in his family's hands. It wasn't turned over to police immediately. It was with his friends. The same friends whose story conflicts with Katie's account. When his mother finally got access to it, she made a discovery that broke her heart all over again. Nothing. No Snapchats. No photos. No videos from that day. Nothing from a boy who, according to his own family, documented every fun moment, every game, every hangout with his friends. "I've seen Nolan whenever he snaps," a family member said. "Like when he goes and he's having fun, he does videos." There was absolutely nothing. No saved videos. Even Nolan's sister recognized how wrong this felt. "That's suspicious," she said. Was evidence deleted? Was it wiped clean before that phone ever reached his mother's hands? And if there was nothing to hide, why does it look exactly like something was hidden? Perhaps the most gut-wrenching part of this entire case comes from Nolan's own father, a man now forced to bury his son while simultaneously fighting to understand how he died. "We always taught him, if you go with a group, you stay with a group," Nolan's father said, his voice heavy with grief and disbelief. "Even when he was in college, I always told him, if you go with 5, you come back with 5. Do not separate from the group. Safety is in numbers." And he always said, "Yes, sir." This wasn't just advice. This was a value Nolan lived by, according to everyone who knew him. So when his friends claim he chose, on his own, to abandon that principle, to separate from the people he came with, to stay behind on a remote island with no way home, his father simply isn't buying it. And honestly, neither should you. Because here's the uncomfortable truth this case keeps circling back to: somebody made a decision that night. Somebody decided it was okay to leave an 18-year-old boy alone on an island as darkness fell. Whether that decision was made out of carelessness, panic, or something far more sinister, that's exactly what investigators are trying to determine right now. You would think, after everything, the conflicting stories, the mysterious audio, the wiped phone, that at the very least the medical evidence would give us clarity. It hasn't. Not yet. Dr. Kendall Crowns, Chief Medical Examiner for Tarrant County and a forensic expert who has performed thousands of autopsies, broke down exactly why this case remains agonizingly unresolved. Because Nolan's body was in the water for several days before recovery, decomposition had already begun, bloating, skin slippage, and the kind of deterioration that complicates even the most routine autopsy findings. But according to Dr. Crowns, that's not actually the biggest obstacle here. The real problem? Drowning and drug overdose can look medically identical in an autopsy. Both cause pulmonary edema, fluid buildup in the lungs, that appears virtually the same under examination. The only way to definitively rule one out is through toxicology testing, which can take 6 to 8 weeks to complete. So right now, as devastating as it sounds, medical examiners cannot even confirm with certainty that Nolan drowned. They're waiting, testing, trying to rule out other possibilities before making a final determination. And here's what makes this even more complicated. Nolan's family has lost all confidence in the local investigation. They made the extraordinary decision to fly his body to Washington, D.C. for an independent autopsy conducted by a doctor with zero ties to local law enforcement. That's not something grieving parents do when they trust the system is working. That's something parents do when they believe the truth is being buried right along with their son. Even the rescue workers who found Nolan's body have questions they can't shake. Todd Terrell of the United Cajun Navy made an offer that speaks volumes about the unresolved suspicions surrounding this case. He offered cadaver dogs, the same dogs instrumental in cracking other major missing persons cases, to search the boat Nolan's friends were on that day. "There's only one thing that will clean blood off a boat," Terrell said carefully, choosing his words. "I doubt if somebody would have done something, they would have used this chemical to remove the blood. So we've offered our services to bring the dogs around the boat. Let that sink in." A trained rescue professional, someone with no stake in this case beyond bringing Nolan home, is publicly stating that if there's any evidence of foul play left on that boat, cadaver dogs could find it. And he's offering for free to make that happen. Has that offer been accepted? As of now, we don't know. So here's where the Nolan Wells case stands tonight. A boy went out with friends to celebrate a holiday and never came home. Two completely contradictory stories exist about his final hours, and both cannot be true. A recording exists that may capture his desperate final moments, but no one can agree on whose voice it is. His phone, his lifeline, his most personal possession, mysteriously contains nothing from the day he died. And medical examiners still cannot say, with full certainty, exactly how he died. Somebody knows what really happened on that island. Somebody knows why Nolan Wells was left alone. And somebody knows why that phone came back empty. His family isn't giving up. Attorney Ben Crump isn't giving up. And investigators are digging deeper by the day, pulling forensic data from that phone, analyzing that audio recording frame by frame, and waiting on toxicology results that could finally tell us the truth about Nolan's final moments. This case is far from over. And when the truth does come out, and I believe it will, you will hear it here first. If you want justice for Nolan Wells, make sure you subscribe and hit that notification bell, because I will be back the moment new information drops on this case. Drop a comment below. Who do you believe? The friends or Katie? Do you think Nolan's phone was wiped on purpose? Let me know your theory. Until next time, stay safe, stay aware, and never stop demanding the truth.